Hey guys, I'm Oklahoma 9 Pound Hammer DX1 Justin, and a big part of a lot of what I do and my hobby is teaching. I like to teach a lot. Now, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm going to be getting into that is going to get a little bit intense. Like when I'm going to start teaching more about the spectrum analyzer, the oscilloscope, um, voltage over time, amplitude over frequency, which is the difference between the two differences in what a spectrum analyzer and oscilloscope does, how we use the tools. I'm slowly bringing you guys into this part of it. I've just now got a good camera, a good recording, microphone setup. I've got through some of my problems to where my videos were being muted. This was due to my Wi-Fi system glitching due to a meter failure out at my pole, and it was literally cutting my Wi-Fi plumb off. Electric was going on and off. We temporarily got that fixed, so I'm going to be getting into some teaching videos. We're going to start the very, very basics. I'm putting a 1 kilohertz tone into the front end of the radio at 20, 30, 40, 20, 30, 50, 100, all different amplitudes, the different amplitudes that we use at different types of testing. Your typical basic injection for modulation, your um, amplitude settings for putting a 1 kilohertz tone into the front of the mic jack versus putting a 27 megahertz signal into the antenna jack at 50 or 100 MV uh, at the antenna jack. It's drastically different than how we inject uh, a audio signal into the front end of the radio. Yeah, we can put audio signals into the back of the radio, but they have to be based upon a carrier frequency so that the receiver can demodulate and convert the carrier signal into an audio signal. See, we can't just put audio into the antenna jack. It has to be operational carrier fundamental frequency, and then the audio has to be put onto that carrier to be able for the receiver to be able to demodulate it. So the way that we inject at the back of the radio is drastically different than the way that we inject at the mic jack. I'll teach all that. I'll teach when and where we use a 1 kilohertz signal and the amplitudes in which we should use for the make and model of each radio because they are different. We also have a dBm amplitude that is different when we work across a different frequency range. 50 ohms in the 27 megahertz range that we work on, it's negative 73 dBm for an S9 signal. There are some situations where we'll use negative 67 dBm. This is different frequency ranges, different impedance inputs use a different amplitude for their standard. All this I'll teach you. Uh, for what we do, it's negative 73 dBm as an S9. Uh, and we're usually that's usually the standard. Uh, which I think so. What is 100 my 100? I have to go. I have to look when I get. It's 100 MV, 100 micro, 100 negative 73 dB. Yeah, I have to look. I'd get. I do so much. I get the amplitude confused sometimes. So I think it's 100 micro, 100 MV, 50 to 100 MV is the typical amplitude that most of your service techs are going to use. Uh, negative 73 dBm, which is 100. But yeah, so I'm just trying to burn time. My wife's in the interview, so wish her luck. Kind of a bummed out day because my tower guy was wanting to come out and do concrete and this and that, and I'm just not. I've got so much going on with trying to get the service on on the pole repaired, and we're gonna be running for the next 3 days, so I'm stressed out. I know he probably is disappointed, but I didn't want him showing up and then me being gone and him having to deal with pallets of concrete. I need to be the one doing all that lifting, uh, not him. And that would feel like crap if he got stuck doing all the work because I wasn't home. I'm just not, I'm busy. But, anyways, where I'm going is when I get home, I'm going to stick that 33. So I just basically showed you all where, and I started setting the ratios from low, medium to high, and then my wife went to hollering, "We gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go." So I never got a signal put in the front of it and never got to set the modulation. So on a Galaxy 33 HML, guys, you have three internal modulation pots. You have a modulation pots for three output stages. The Galaxy 33 is a HML, uses a low, medium, and high stage. So you have to go in and set the VR pots for each carrier ratio. And I can tell you where they're all at, and I can damn near tell you them by my head. VR 14, VR 16 is your low. VR 13, VR 16 is your low to high ratio. C139 and R188, which is going to be where they're located, it's going to be the capacitor and the resistor that feeds each trimmer. These trimmers are not marked, but C139 and R188 is your medium power carrier ratio and your medium uh, AM modulation ratio. And what is it? VR12, VR14 are going to be your AM and FM modulation ratios. They're going to be for AM, FM modulation, and they're going to set a low and high ratio. The medium ratio has its own modulation trimmer. It has three trimmers for modulation: low, medium, high. Three different trimmers to set. And then you can set the low high between the two trimmers on the power ratio, and then you have your own trimmer for the medium, which sits next to one R188, sits right below C139. I can really have the boards memorized by like in my head, guys. I do a lot of this stuff. Uh, but when we get back, we'll slap a 1 kilohertz tone. I'll look at the amplitude and see what amplitude that the manual calls for this injection, and then we'll inject it at that amplitude at 1 kilohertz, and then we'll set the modulation envelope. I'm 99% sure on this, but the manual calls for 87 to 90% on their envelope. So we're not going to set it for 100% modulation. We set it for 90 because it's spec. Now, if we can get a little bit more out of it without pinching off the carrier or over modulating the radio, then we will. But most of your CB radios, guys, if you're setting them up right and you're doing things right, you're doing things the way they're supposed to be done to where the radio sounds good, you very seldom will set a CB radio up to 100% modulation. Now, you guys that splatter and sound like garble bullshit, that we're not talking about that. I talk about people that produce a good spectral pure signal uh, and a good frequency response at the mic jack. People that don't want to be overmodulated and want to sound good, because I'm here to tell you right now, the guys that are producing a clean signal to the front of the amplifier are the ones that are producing range, the ones that are being heard, the ones that are cutting through all that garbled up bull crap that's spread all over the spectrum. Nah, that ain't what we're trying to do. Guys, y'all be good. We'll see you.